The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to the monthly eConnect webinar. My name is Bob Condi. I'm sitting here with Marcus Kelly. And today we're going to go over the behavior report. Before we get started, does anybody have any questions? Is the audio coming in clear?
Can you guys hear us? We got one response.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. All right, so today we're going to dive into the behavior report, what the behavior report's used for, and stuff like that. We want you guys to give us your questions, your inputs, your thoughts, and we will go from there. So to start, as many of you know, to get to the behavior report, we're going to click on POS at the top, and it defaults you into the summary view. Look over here on behavior report, and it's going to load up the behavior report.
We would like to tell everybody behavior report is another way of data mining, and as we all know, we all tend to get to the same endpoint at the end of the day, but it's just a matter of how you get there. And the behavior report is just another tool to give us the answers that we need so we can do our data mining and see what's going on. But like Bob's already ready to cover, the main difference with the behavior report, it allows you to compare apples to apples. And as we all know, somebody who works midweek during the day versus somebody who works weekends, that swing shift at a casino or at an amusement park, you know they're going to be busier, so you'll be able to tell who's doing what.
All right, so what we're going to do is when you come to the screen, if you're running an older version, it won't look exactly like this. If you're running the latest version, it will look like this. Basically, you're going to have three different boxes. You've got your first box here, which is your date and time and range interval. You've got your center part here, which is where you select what data you want to, or which people you want to look at revenue centers. And then we have our POS events and our queried events over here. So to start, I tell everyone, by default, this is set up to do a range interval of 7 days and to do a full interval count. To clarify that, we're going to take all the data that we're going to pull, we're going to group it into 7-day periods, and we're going to display 4 7-day periods. It's going to cover 28 days of data. This is a really good range to work with because in 30 days you'll be able to see patterns. If you want to make it larger, all you have to do is hit the drop down, say I want to look at 10 days. It's going to recalculate out all the information and get it for you for that time frame. Okay, the next part you'll come to, you have the option to select your employees, you have the option to select terminals or revenue centers. I prefer revenue centers, but just to show you guys, if you wanted to add this employee, if you click on it, you'll see down here where it says selected, none show up. So what we want to do is click on the employee themselves, and you'll see their name pop up down below.
And just to let you know, the reason why some people like to search by employees, if you have 2 or 3 employees working the same bar and you want to isolate those employees and compare their numbers, this is where you'll be able to compare employee to employee, knowing that, hey, I got 3 bartenders on swing shift. I want to see if the numbers all match or if somebody's way out of line.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the employee. We'll hit the minus over here. It's going to remove this employee. We've added a search feature in for the latest version. This allows you to type in the employee's name and quickly find the person you're looking for. Like Marcus said, if you have a group of bartenders that work at night and you want to just isolate those 3 people, we can isolate those 3 people and see what they're doing. Like I said, revenue centers is what I prefer to use. Click on revenue center. Once again, you can type in the revenue center you're looking for. What I do is I'll go through each one of these and I'll run, for the most part, the same report. So I wanted to start with, let's do the hot dog stand. Now most people's mistake is they click on the name of the stand they're looking for. If you have the older version, you have a drop down. If you just click on it, it's not going to put anything down in the selected area, and you won't be able to run the report. We actually want to click on this little guy here. When you mouse over, it says add all active employees from this revenue center for the selected time range. Now remember, if you have an employee that moves around a lot, if they work 5 minutes at this hot dog stand and the rest of their time was spent at this New York pizza, they're still going to show up with all of their information for everything they've done for the past 28 days, regardless of what revenue center it's at. So to add all the people from this hot dog stand, we're going to click on this little guy, and you're going to see it populates up all of the employees below that have worked at that revenue center at some point in time in the last 28 days. The time that it takes for this to load is going to vary based on the amount of information and data you have coming into your system. Also, we're working over the internet, where you guys, most of you are working in a closed network, so it's a relatively different for you. Any questions so far? Alright, so now we have our employees. We have a handful. This employee 0 comes up whenever certain transactions are done before an employee is signed in. I usually like to remove them from my list. So now we have our selected employees. Now we come to our POS events and our query events. Your POS events are all of the event types that show up in the system. Some of them might work at your location, some of them might not. It really just depends on how your property has your POS system configured. For instance, this site, they have no sales, but really only managers can run it, but I still want to look at these no sales. I'm going to select no sales. I select menu item void. Begin check is one that I add to every one of my behavior reports. It lets me know who's doing the most work at a revenue center. If a person has the most begin checks and they have far more than any other employee at the revenue center, then in my mind they should probably have more no sales and have more menu item voids. I've also selected tender void and transaction cancel. You can also come into your query events and you can run these. Now, what I want to make sure everybody understands when you're doing this is it's going to take some time to run this. In this instance, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 employees. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so we have 6 employees times 28 days times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 queries. We have 5 event types we're looking at. So the system has to run 840 queries. So it's going to take just a minute to run this. Let's go ahead and run this report. And as it searches for that, it is also grouping them all together. So we have all of our employees here on the left. We have the first 7-day period here. Here's the begin checks, menu item voids, no sales, and transaction cancels.
Just so everybody knows, keep in mind if you do select a POS event type or a query type and there are no results for that 28 days, it will not show in your report. So just keep that in mind.
All right. As you can see on these numbers, you can see some of them have these reddish color bars over them. This stands for above average, and you have this down here to let you know what it is. You'll see we also have the averages. So here's our second 7-day period, our third 7-day period. As we scroll to the right, we'll come to the fourth 7-day period, and then we come to the most important part, which is our averages. This is taking the averages for every employee and letting you know what they are. You can see they're color-coded. Green means they're in the norm. They're 1 standard deviation. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yellow means they're slightly outside the norm. They're 2 standard deviations away. Or red means they're 3 or more standard deviations away. So what we can see is this employee has done 14 no sales on average per week, when the average employee is only doing 3 per week at this revenue center. So we can see this is something we want to look at right away. So what we've done is we've taken everyone who's worked at this revenue center and we've focused in on one person doing one thing. Usually the behavior report is going to lead you into your investigation. most of the cases that we worked on, we might start here, find the person we want to look at, and as we look at these no sales or look at something else, we identify what the real problem is, and it allows us to further our investigation. This just really points out who the people are that we want to focus our time on.
And if you take a look at this employee, you look at their begin checks, they're in greens. That means they're doing the same amount as everybody else. And the question again sticks out. If they're doing the same amount of transactions as everybody else, why are they so high with the no sales?
Now, to view some of this, if you click on these numbers, nothing will happen. These are just the averages. So we want to go back to the previous week. And so we see in the previous week, we have 23. We click on it, and now it's going to bring us up to all their transactions for this week. And we can see they worked in different revenue centers. We have New Bar, Finish Line, Lotus, so all over the place. Okay, so just like any other investigation we do, mouse over it, start taking a look at the video, see what's going on, see if there's anything suspicious going on.
And it's one of those, with you guys knowing your property versus us being the third party, you're going to know who your supervisors and managers are. So if that name pops up and you know that employee is supposed to be doing that many no sales, we still tell everybody, you know what, take a look anyways, because you never know what's happening with that employee.
All right, so I'm coming over here. The next thing I want to show everybody is how to save their behavior report. So I'm basically going to run the same behavior report in different location, many more employees. So I want to run this and get my results. Scroll over. We can see most of the people here are in yellow and green, but we do have a few that stand out. For instance, this employee here has more begin checks than anybody, which just tells me more than likely they spend more hours working or they work at the busier times of the day. They also leave menu item voids and they also leave and pick up. What's interesting, though, is when you look at the transaction cancels, this person's averaging less than 1 per week. This employee is doing 41. So this immediately just highlights who I want to focus on or who I want to look at. Now, one of the things I like to do is I come back here, and I want to save this behavior report. Click on Save. It's going to ask me to name this report. This is Patio Pizza. I can make it private if I like, or I can do it for everybody and hit Save. So what it's going to do is it's going to save everything that I have selected. So if I come back over here and hit the drop down, you'll see Patio Pizza now shows up in my drop down, and I can click Load, and you're going to see all my employees pop up down here, and all my boxes over here are going to automatically check.
And what we've learned with this, a lot of our customers, the way they're using it, is every Monday, let's say they want to look at the sports bar for a casino to see how their sales were during football season. They have their private queries. They know every Monday they can come in, click load their report without having to go through the extra steps of going back, selecting the revenue center, selecting the event types. It's just a time saver. Is why that function is there.
Now the other thing I'll use this for is I've selected my favorite POS events that I run regularly, and I already have it in there. So now if I want to change the revenue center, I can just clear out the employees and select a different revenue center and run the same behavior report through the revenue center. This makes it a little more time efficient so I can get through and identify people I want to look at.
Do we have any questions so far?
Can you change? All right, so we had a question, and it says, can I change the name of the saved behavior report after it's been saved without administrator access? As of right now, no. I would suggest you just rename it, whatever you want the new name to be, and we can go in and delete the old one. All right, Steve has a question. Steve, let me turn on your phone. Give me 1 second. Oh. All right, Steve, I just sent you an audio pin, so you can punch that in on your phone. You should be able to get access to the top of it. So, guys. Steve, no. For some reason, it's showing that you're not dialed in on the call. So, can you delete old behavior report names without admin? I do not believe so. Most of that has to come from your admin, but it is something that someone that has admin access can change to allow users to be able to do. It all depends on how you guys want your system set up. Mike Coons asked a question: are the queries specific to the person logged in, or can they be set as all users access to the queries? All of the queries we have will be over here under the queried events. So anything you have access to will be in here. If you save the query that's it's a private query that only you can access, only yourself and people with admin privileges will be allowed to access that query and see it in here in your queried events.
And keep in mind the queried events, I believe Robert covered it, but on your summary view when you first log in, those are the queries that you'll be able to select from.
All right, Steve Lajewski asked, can you add any POS events if they're not currently on this list? The way that our system works is we get information as it's sent to us from your POS system. As far as I know, I'll check with my developers. These are the event types that we get coming in. They might not always be exactly how we know them, or how F&B or retail uses them. But it's always it's a test to figure out if it comes through. So,
a prime example is we found out that unassigned drawer for the micro system comes up as pickup loans. So it's kind of you kind of got to go through tests, see which event types you would like to see, and once you figure those out, you can select those. We're reading through another question right now, so bear with us.
all right, so Steve asked a question. He says, if I want to look at 3 different outlets and I want to look at the breakers that move between the 3, how can I quantify if anyone's trending higher between these 3 particular outlets? All right, so what I would do is you have 3 different outlets and you've got breakers that move between them. I'm assuming you know who those breakers are, and what I would do in this instance is I would come through, go to the employees, search for the employee's name, add the different employees in individually, and then select my events I want to look at and compare each one of those employees against one another. If they're all 3 breakers and they're all 3 moving between them, they should still, over the time frame, they might not be the same here because they're working different revenue centers different times, but overall, over the course of a 4-week period, they should still be somewhat close. Any other questions? All right, so one of the other things I'll do when I'm doing this is, if I want to look, for instance, at this person's no sales, I'm looking, by default, this is going to take me to the past week. So this isn't a lot of results, and I'll usually look through each one of these see what I think about it, and see what the data is telling me. Is the data telling me this cache was open for a long time? Was it open quickly and shut quickly? So what I'll do is after I've looked through these, if I want more information, if you hit the drop down and say show me the last 30 days, click apply, it's going to keep basically that query in there for you. So it's going to keep looking for that same employee doing the same event type or running the same query we were looking at. So then we can go in and we can aggregate it and say, was there a specific date? Was there a specific day of the week? Was there a specific hour this employee was doing this? Because, when I tell people to look for hours, it's because the manager has to go on break. If the manager goes on break, they might want to steal more during that 1 hour. And so I'll aggregate by hour. I'll see do I see anything crazy. I'll see the 21st hour and the 14th hour are the two biggest. Nothing's really jumping off at me, but I can click on this if I'd like. So we got 23 of them that have happened in the 23rd hour of the day. Then I can aggregate again and show me which date. And you can see that on the 16th now, there's a huge portion of all of their no sales that happened in that hour on that day. So I've gone from having all this information, all this data, one person to look at, and depending on how you aggregate it can let you know if anything's going on there. Is there ever a reason why an employee on a single day, on a single hour, has 17 no sales? My quick answer is no. I'm just looking at this. It's 9:08, 9:11, 9:12, 26, 29, 29, 35, 36, 40, 46, 47, 51, 55, and 58. In my mind, I've just found somebody I'm going to focus on for a little while. Any questions on how I got to there? I know I went kind of quickly. I'm just kind of flying by the seat on camp right now.
And it's one of those, keep in mind, we tell everybody, the Econex software, it's going to give you information. It's up to you guys as the customers to decipher the information and determine, hey, should we just talk to this employee? Should we sit back, watch him for another week? It's those are the determination on your end that you guys will have to make.
All right. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up, questions, anything we want to cover? It could be outside the behavior report. I just wanted to focus on the behavior report because a lot of people in the last webinar had asked to learn more about it or said that they didn't fully understand the behavior report. All right, so we had a question that came in that says they're looking to determine the length of time a cash drawer is left open in food and beverage and retail. This query, it's something that we have to test with each customer because each individual system, and this even goes between Micro 7700 and Micro 7700 depending on how it's set up at each location. Some locations we get the information, some don't. We just had a customer whose site I was at. For whatever reason, they set it up so you can search for cash drawer closed, but they don't send any signal for cash drawer open, or vice versa. And so because of that, I wasn't able to use that query to see how long the cash drawer was open. What I've done at most of my locations, let me see if I have one here, is I have a query set up to look for any time the cash drawer is open greater than 30 seconds. This query, we can get you the information for it so we can run it and see if it returns any results. If it does and you want to extend it out, we can quickly make a change in the code for that query to say show me the time the cash drawer is open greater than 2 minutes or whatever length you deem what you want or necessary for what you want to look at.
And keep in mind, just touching real quick on queries, this query is considered an advanced query for the simple fact that it's searching for 2 lines of data contained on one check. And the basic query builder does not allow you to do that, but this query will allow or does the advanced search for you. So anytime you're looking for 2 lines of data on a single check, that's when you would have to reach out to us and ask for the advanced query to see if it can be made.
All right, we've had a question come in from Kyle. It says, is it possible to have a guest name show on the report when a check is closed? That is actually something that our development team is working on, is getting certain information, whether it be a player's club card number, name, stuff like that. We do have to be careful because of PCI compliance. Yeah, we'll write that down. Kyle want to know if we can have the Visa and then the guy's name and the last four. Once again, with PCI, I'll have to check on that. We'll write that down and put it through to our developers. All right. Here on the screen, you guys will see this is what we call an advanced query or a link query. This is what, when we're looking for that cash drawer open greater than a certain amount of time, we're basically telling the system to go look for the begin check, and we're telling the system to look for the end check. We're having it grab the 2 times, and we're saying, is the time greater than, in this instance, it's 30 seconds. We can exceed this to however many seconds we want. Rename the query and say that no, you have an additional query to look for the time that check's open. So if you'd like to have this, let me know. I can get it over to you or your admin person. We can get it set up in your system and test to see if that query is in there. And just so you are aware, this will sometimes return false positives as well. If, for instance, an employee brings up an item, receives payment, the cash drawer opens, and close it, and it took 5 seconds, and then they don't do anything, and they decide to hit no sale 27 times in the next hour, and the cash drawer is open for 1 second each time, it's going to take the time, the first time the cash drawer was open and the last time the cash drawer was closed, look at the difference in time. And so if it's greater than 30 seconds, it's going to give you that false positive. Does that make sense?
Looks like we got another question that came in, so bear with us again.
Steve Lojiski asked if we have any companies that use Epicor in their retail outlets. I don't know the answer to that, Steve. I actually don't, not familiar with that system. I haven't used it. We are taking a note, and I will find out for you and let you know. We also have another question. Is there any way to find out who authorized a particular transaction, such as a no sale? That is another one that we currently are in the works of developing for one of our new releases. I'm not sure when that one will be in our next release, but it is something we are gathering.
Yeah, we've had a lot of customers ask for that, and like Bob said, we've been working, or correction, our developers have been working to get that answer. So bear with us, it is in the works.
So we've covered the behavior report. Is there anything anybody wants to see? Any questions anybody wants to throw out that we haven't covered that might be helpful to everybody? A couple questions come in. All right, no we didn't. I moved my mouse and it scrolled up. So if nobody has any other questions, we can. Do you guys have anything you want to go over? Anything that we want to do a refresher on?
Just keep in mind the behavior report is, it's one of the quicker ones to cover. Granted, there's still a lot of information and there's a lot out there, but explaining it and training it, this is a quick session. And now is when we ask that you guys go out, use it. As you come across questions, please call the eConnect office. I know Bob's always available to answer questions. I'm the same way. Even if it's on a weekend, shoot the emails to us, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible.
Okay, Mike Kuntz asked if I can explain the associations menu. I'm guessing you're referring to this, Mike. So, if not, just say no and I'll stop. The associations, not everyone's going to be able to see this. due to the fact that you have to have admin privileges to be able to get to the associations. For what we do with associations is we have cameras and we've got POS terminals. So if I select the cameras from this location, it's going to populate up all the cameras within the system. And over here I can select the POSs. And so now what I can do is I can drag and drop from this side over to this side different terminals. So see how we have the terminals listed both here for these? To show you guys what that does is when you go into your cameras and you pull up a camera. So in this camera view, see we have a terminal here, we have a terminal here, we have a terminal here. If we hit items, you'll see. Oops, sorry, I didn't have that one in. Sorry guys, I gotta log out and log back in real quick.
But it's one of those, the reason why he keeps logging out and logging back in is, we did this this morning, probably about an hour before the call. So once you associate a camera to a POS terminal, you have to refresh it so the system knows that, hey, let me go ahead and start showing this data to you now.
And so what this allows us to do is we see the different terminals and we can put all the terminals in and switch between them. And when we click on it, we can see that this registered 5 is down there. We can see the employee working. We can pop this out and keep number 5 over here. We can go ahead and change this out and say I want to look at number 2 as well. Keep them both up at the same time. This will automatically sync to the time that the camera's up. Any questions on the associations? Now, the one other thing I wanted to point out is you see when you look in here, these are all terminals, but you have this one, which is a revenue center. You see how it has multiple terminals? If you click on this one, it's going to show you all of the data from every terminal, which does get confusing if everybody's punching on their screen. Sometimes it's going to show up all over the place. It can be hard to read, but some people like to have that off. Yeah, we'll set that good. Alright, we also want to know how to add users. Actually, we just finished a new rule, and we were asked how we can add users in with admin rights. For you, Mike, you should be able to do this right now. If you go into Setup, Users, and User List, you should see a much smaller list than what I have here. If you want to search for the person, you can type in what their username should be. If not, you click Add User, you put their information in, make sure you select the correct default or the correct time zone, give them a username, give them a password. Once you've done this and you've saved it, you will be able to come back into them and click on permissions, and you can make them a viewer and make them an admin or whatever you do. As far as who has admin rights at your location, I know you do, IT does, probably should be about it. I don't think KP does. All right. Anybody else have any other questions? Alrighty. I'm going to ask you guys a series of questions real quick. We always want to know what our next webinar should be. So I'm going to start to put in a poll question real quick.
And if you don't see the topic listed in the poll question, you can always ask the question to us or shoot us an email, and we can add it to the next poll question that we do at our next webinar. And we found that by doing it this way, as you can see, we're getting more feedback, and these webinars, they're result driven. It's for you guys. So whatever you want us to cover, let us know, and we'll cover it for you and try to bring you up to speed. So that poll question's up right now. We'll probably let it run a couple more minutes.
Oh, Kyle, I just saw you had your hand up. Would you just like to chat? Just turn on Kyle's microphone. If not, just tell me no. Kyle, are you there? Oh, he has no mic, so we're good. Alrighty, so it looks like next month we're probably going to be hitting the query builder and touching on cases. So, and if we have time, we'll hit stats. Those seem to be the three that everyone's interested in learning about. So next month we'll hit that up, and please bring any questions you have, query questions you have. Once we really go into depth on how the query builder works and what it searches for, it really gives you insight on how to use the system more effectively. So, if nobody else has any other questions, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. And please feel free to reach out to me or anyone here on my team or eConnect if you want training for your team or help building a query or help with investigation. Thank you.
Thank you.